Sorry, my mic was muted. We're having some tech gremlins tonight, but I hear it's in the stars. The astrology is saying that we're going to have tech gremlins tonight. Hello, welcome to No Icing with Dritta. Thank you for everybody for coming and joining and watching us. And hello, replay people. And if you're busy tonight, we understand. Just come back and watch that replay and leave a comment, say hi and where you're from. And tonight I have an amazing guest, and I have to bring up my executive producer, Renee Jaworski, because she's going to help me introduce the special guest tonight, and so is Rory Penland. So let me bring up my my show host and executive producer. Hold on. Hello.
That's co-host.
Co-host. Yes. Did I say it wrong?
You said show host. That's you.
Show host. Okay. Co-host. Show host. Co-host. You know. Okay.
We're all very nervous because Billy Vera is here, so we're all very nervous. We're talking out of both corners of our mouths all the time, and we're just wonky today. But
I'm not nervous.
It's very scary to have,
I love the guy. I'm not nervous.
Well, you're not nervous, but Sandy
I'm
and I
adjusting your mic, Renee, because I can't hear you. Hold on. I'm adjusting your mic right now.
Okay. All right. Thank you. I'm always afraid that I'm too loud. So, I'm already as loud as I can get here. Okay. Anyways, the most
You sound great, darling.
I sound great, darling. Okay, let's bring up Billy because he's, been backstage and we're a little bit late today because of some tech gremlins, but he's here and he's such a trooper and he's so great at this stuff. He's the most relaxed guy. He's been through everything in Hollywood. This is like a blip on his not even a blip on his radar.
I'm so excited, Renee. I'm gonna have a heart attack.
Yes,
I'm gonna have a heart attack.
Me too.
I love
me too.
Billy so much. The last time he was on the show, we had Uncle Nino.
Yes, we did.
And
people are still watching that, by the way. It's amazing.
It was amazing, right?
And a very
We were
flustered
telling
priest.
stories from the past, from like the days, back in the days. And it was
Yes.
amazing. Okay, here he is. How do we introduce him?
Wait,
I hear
and
an
the
echo.
only, he's a Hollywood legend. He has his own star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. He's absolutely amazing. Everybody's heard of him. You've heard all of his music a million times, even if you didn't know it. So it's Billy Vera, and hopefully Sandy will. There he is. Ah, hello.
Laser regular Pinky Carruthers.
Hello, Billy.
Hello, everybody. Good to be here.
I'm so
Thanks
glad
for having
to see you. Thank you for being here, and we really value and appreciate your time. So we're also going to try and hit some questions that are different than the other times that we've gotten us to hear from you. So Sandy, do you want to start?
I do, but I'm hearing an echo.
You run away.
Hold on. I'm still
Yeah,
hearing an echo.
Billy
No,
sounds
you
good.
Run away.
Yeah, it's just Sandy, just mute Billy when he's not talking on his end. Just mute Billy when he's not talking.
Okay. But now I hear nobody because nobody's talking.
Nobody's talking.
I was going to say the same thing, but now nobody's talking.
Now,
So Sandy, just mute him when he's not talking. That way we won't get the double audio.
Rory is muted. I can see the little cross on the microphone,
Yep.
and I don't see Sandy's face. I don't see your face.
Well, I'm going to start off and ask a question, Billy, because you are somebody who broke a lot of racial barriers, and I'm not sure everybody knows that about you. You had the first charting hit that was an interracial love song.
Absolutely.
You were an integral part of the Apollo. Talk us through how you got involved with that, particularly in your era. That's amazing.
Well, this was around 1967, and I was a staff songwriter at a publishing company called April Blackwood Music, and writing with a fellow named Chip Taylor, who you'll know him from, he wrote Wild Thing, Angel of the Morning, a lot of great songs. He was a sort of a mentor to me. And the first song we ever wrote together became a hit record for Barbara Lewis called Make Me Belong to You. And that gave us entree to her label, Atlantic Records, Jerry Wexler, the big cheese up there. And so we had an idea, let's write a duet for maybe a couple of Atlantic artists who'll record it, boy-girl duet. So we wrote this song and we made a demo of it with me and some girl from the neighborhood. And we played it for Jerry Wexler, and he pounded his fist on the desk. He said, "Man, that's a smash." He said, "Get rid of the girl on the demo, and I'll record you on Atlantic Records." So, I figured I was friendly with Patti LaBelle and the Bluebells. We backed them up a lot of time. We were the house band on weekends at this nightclub. And all the hit record acts of the day would come up and we'd play for them. And so one of the girls in the group named Nona Hendricks, she had a voice I felt would blend better with mine than Patty's would. So I called her up in Philadelphia and, "Hey, Nona, you want to make a record with me?" "Yeah, sure, you bet." So we went in and we recorded the song. And their manager got into the act, and he said, "Oh, if Billy and Nona have a hit, she'll leave the group, and it'll be a big mess." So then we had to audition about 20 more girls, who all sounded like they should be singing Stephen Sondheim songs. They on Broadway. They weren't what we were looking for. And finally, we were about to give up, and Wexler called up. He said, "Listen, we just got this girl, Judy Clay. She's a cousin of Dionne Warwick, Dee Dee Warwick, niece of Sissy Houston, who at that time had a little daughter named Whitney, who was 4 years old." And so we auditioned her, and she was great. And so we put her voice on the record, and it became a hit. And next thing you know, we get an offer to play at the Apollo Theater, which to me was a dream come true, because I was a customer at the Apollo. I used to go see people like James Brown and Bobby Blue Bland and all those people up there. Wow, to me, the idea of walking onto that sacred stage where all the greats of Black music had performed, from Duke Ellington to Billie Holiday to, you name it, they played there, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And so we got the job. Now, at that time, there was no photograph of us. So I get up there the night before. You were hired for a week, 7-day week, 5 shows a day. So the night before, you went up there to rehearse with the house band so they could learn your music. And I show up, and the stage manager was a fellow named Honey Coles. You can YouTube Coles and Atkins. He was a tap dancer, great tap dancer. And he said, "Harlem hasn't seen you yet," meaning me. And he said, "But I got an idea." Now, bear in mind, this is 1 month after Martin Luther King was killed. So suddenly they get a little nervous, that maybe I might not be welcome. But he said, "Here's what you do." He said, "Judy, you enter from stage right. Billy, you enter from stage left. And you wait for her to take 3 steps out from the wings. And then you make your entrance and watch what happens." So I count 1, 2, 3, enter. 1,500 people gasp at the sight of me. And I hear people going, "That's him? That skinny little white boy? That's him?" And we did our 3 songs. Everybody did, 12, 13 minutes. And they loved us. Lo and behold, they loved us. So after the first show, Honey Coles came up to our dressing room, and he said, "Listen, I know I can curse on here, so it's okay, right?" Yeah. So he came up to our dressing room. He said, I'm going to change up the show." He said, "Because I'm going to put you on right before the star." He said, "Because ain't nobody going to follow you two motherfuckers." And so that became our spot, in the show right before the star. So we did a whole week, 5 shows a day. Wednesday night, which was the same night that they had the amateurs on after the last show, Sissy Houston came with her little 4-year-old daughter, Whitney, and they were sitting in our dressing room with little Whitney's in my arms, sitting on my lap, and who knew she was going to go up and become a major star when she got big. And there we came off stage, and they wouldn't let us off. They kept clapping. They wouldn't stop clapping. So Honey Cole says, "Go out there, take it from letter B," which means in showbiz parlance, do it from the second half of the song and do it over again. So they finally let us off stage, and we were a hit. We were a big hit at the Apollo. And then that was thrilling for me,
Did you have any reticence at all, given the time period, the era, Martin Luther King's assassination?
I was too dumb, basically.
Yeah.
That club that we played at on weekends with my little band, we played all the great soul acts, we got to back them up. Everybody from the Drifters to the Coasters to the Shirelles, everybody. We played them all. And all of them would say, oh, man, the first time I played the Apollo, I was shaking in my boots. Oh, my God, I threw up before I went on stage. And because they knew that the Apollo audience was so sophisticated that they had seen the best, and they expected you to be great. But if you were not great, they let you know it, and if you were great,
they're honest. They're very honest.
So I just assumed, I'd been performing for a few years by that time, and I just wasn't afraid at all. Maybe I was too stupid to be afraid, but I went out there and did what I did, and Judy was a great singer. God, she was a great singer.
What about from white audiences? After you were doing that, you were changing part of pop culture. Did you have any resistance from white culture?
Well, don't forget that 1968 was the beginning of the hippie era. So your average white people were not really into soul music. They like Motown, of course, but they were listening to Bob Dylan, and the Rolling Stones, the Beatles, all that stuff, and so we really didn't fit in with what they liked. It wasn't a racial thing. It's just we wasn't their kind of music. We were sort of one step backwards into soul, and so we didn't play too many of those places. But I found in what's the word I'm looking for? Analyzing it years later, I figured out that our audience, Billy Vera and Judy Clay's audience, was basically everyday Black people and working class blue collar white people. Those were the people that went for our kind of music. So we never had a problem. We didn't get any major television. I guess these networks, they're supposed to be these big liberal networks where they talk the talk, but they don't walk the walk. And they were probably afraid of their Southern sponsors.
Yeah.
I imagine, but we didn't get any. In fact, we only did one television show in Detroit. It was one of those dance party bandstand type shows. Robin Seymour. We did tape a show in New York. Clay Cole was the disc jockey that had the show, and they taped us, but they never ran the tape. I don't know if we were too ugly or what it was, but no, I was pretty back then. I had my little mohair suits.
You're still pretty, Billy. What about? Did you have an understanding that you were a trailblazer at that time?
That's not why we chose her, because some of the girls that we auditioned were Caucasian. So the song itself was not an interracial song. It was really an adultery song, or a wannabe adultery song. It's about two people that are in love with each other. One of them's married. I think it's she. The girl is married, and they just can't get together. And that's why they say, why can't we be like storybook children? Because you got a husband, bitch. So but because she was Black and I was white at the time, and that people took it to mean a racial, interracial song, but it really wasn't.
Can I say something?
In fact, you had a gold album, million-selling album. Nancy Sinatra and Lee Hazelwood recorded "Storybook Children," on not as a single, but as an album cut.
I love them as a duo, basically. Yeah. Sandy?
Do I have an echo still?
You have to mute Billy when he's not talking.
Okay, hold on.
Said, motherfucker.
Oh wait. Wait, it was I missed some cursing. What?
You wind
missed
his
something
ass up
good.
and you let him go.
I missed the cursing.
I don't hear Sandy now.
Oh, man, I don't want to miss any cursing.
Sandy, you just have to mute him whenever he's not talking. I
No, I
can't
got no
unmute him
Renee.
until you, yeah.
Okay. I was just gonna say that I just got done watching the documentary about Billy Vera, and if none of you have ever seen it, you got to go back and watch the documentary. It's amazing. You will learn so
Harlem to
much.
Hollywood.
It's on Tubi. I just learned about Tubi. I'm new. So yeah, everybody's got to go back and watch it. He's got 4 books out. You will learn everything. Obviously, you always learn more about someone in reading their book. But if you don't have time to read their book, just go watch the documentary on Tubi because it's amazing, and you will learn all the things that Billy Vera has gone through in his lifespan, which is incredible. Like 30 years, with a hit song that nobody knew about. Like all of a sudden it gets famous after 30 years. You know what I mean, Renee?
Yeah, exactly. That's the type of thing. And he's been relevant for his entire career. I mean, I don't know that many people in show business that can remain relevant for that amount of time. So basically everybody who's alive right now has some kind of impact, has been impacted by Billy Vera, which I don't know. Billy, can you weigh in on that about longevity in the industry?
Well, yeah. I mean, I've always felt that, or I've figured out, let's say, a long time ago, that if you do good songs, they don't go away. I had a chance to record some shitty songs that went to that I knew were going to be #1 hits. And I said, but do I want to be singing that shit for the next 25 years? So that's been my attitude. Sing quality songs and make quality music. And, most of the time, art music, if you want to call it that, or doesn't reach the masses. It's and you have to gird your loins, so to speak, and accept that's going to be your role in the business, and find a way to make a living. And as it turned out, I stumbled into voiceovers at one point, telling people to eat at Burger King and drink Pepsi and watch The Nanny at 8/7 Central each night on Thursday night, and I made a lot of money doing that. It wasn't artistically satisfying, but it gave me the financial ballast so that I could go out and do music that I am proud of, and whether it's sold or not, you see, and
right.
And so that was my route that I took.
Okay, so this is good for artists to hear. You just said that you had integrity about what you chose because you were thinking about the long haul rather than the immediate reward of getting another hit. So you turned down temporary money, or immediate money, for your career to remain respectable over your entire career. And I think that's something that a lot of artists can learn from.
Yeah, and that's assuming that you're any good. A lot of people.
Right.
I think that anybody that goes into music or acting or whatever, they think they're good. There's the narcissism factor there. I remember my shrink one time. I had this little old Jewish lady who was my shrink. She stayed my shrink until she was 95 years old, and then at one point she said, you don't need me anymore, but I hope you stay because I like hearing your stories. And I think she only had about 4 or 5 patients left. Anyway,
she was there for the stories. Like, so she actually was just enjoying it. That was her payment more than the money, Billy.
yeah.
Pay for
Because
her.
she never raised the fee in all the years I was with her. You know, and I had one of the things that she was never able to fix about me was that I grew up around beautiful women. My mother was beautiful. My mother was a singer on the Perry Como show. I'd be there, and I'd be a little boy sitting in the dressing room with half naked, beautiful singers and dancers, you know, and they're, oh, he's so cute. Come sit on my lap. And they'd be kissing on me, you know, and I got used to that, you know, and so I like pretty women, you know, and many pretty women, especially those who have eyes to be in show business, have narcissistic personality disorder, is what it's called. And so
You had a tough life, Billy. I don't know how you dealt with all those
habit.
ladies hitting on you.
What's that?
I said, you had a tough life. I don't know how you dealt with all those ladies hitting on you.
Well, you know, at my age, they ain't exactly knocking on my door every night, you know, at 2 o'clock in the morning like they used to. But there was a time. There was a time. You know.
You still party with some beautiful women.
Well, I'm lucky enough to be friends with some beautiful women at this point in my life. Yeah, but back then, boy, there was some fun times. But
I want to know if you're married now. Are you married now?
No, I've been divorced for about 28 years. I was married for 2 years when I was 21. I married an older woman of 22, and and I realized that that it was not fair for me to stay married to her, because I'd come off a stage and there's, you know, Bessie Mae and Sally and this one and that one, and I couldn't say no. I couldn't bring myself to say no, and I finally said that the only honorable thing I can do is to, you know, free her up to find a decent man, you know.
Oh,
and then
Billy.
And then I was a bachelor for 20 years, rock and roll bachelor. And then I knocked up an actress, you know, and that was that. So that lasted about 6 years. And I was on the verge of losing my mind. So I had to get out of that, you know. I've been single ever since.
Tell us your greatest love story. What's a moment where you fell in love, like love at first sight? You fell in love, head over heels.
Oh,
I know you've been in love.
No, the big love of my life was the one that at this moment came from. I'm going to move this screen over a little bit so I can look at you when I'm talking to you. There we go. I was playing this kind of an upper class club up in Pleasantville, New York, the home of Reader's Digest, a club called The Siding. And one night I look out and there's this 2 couples at a table in the front row, this beautiful girl. And body language told me that she was with, but not with the guy. The other couple, body language said, yeah, they're a couple, you know. So I asked somebody, I said, who is that? Who is that? They said, oh, that's Nina. Oh, she used to waitress here. Oh my God, she looked like young Lauren Bacall, you know, in the first movie that she made with Bogey. And I mean, and she even sounded like her. Anyway, so the next time we played there,
Of all the joints in all the world, she had to walk into yours.
We started dating. She was 20 years old. I was 33, just like Bogey and Bacall, man. And so she's telling me, you know, every 20-year-old is a narcissist. You know, hopefully they grow out of it by 25, 26 years old. But she still had a little bit of a taste of that in her. God bless her. Anyway, she's telling me how she broke up with this guy that I saw her with, and he crushed him. And oh my God, he was suicidal, blah, 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 blah. And so the next day I'm like some loser musician. I'm living at my mother's house, right? And I'm playing piano, and I start writing this song from his point of view as I perceived it. But I got stuck about 2/3 of the way through. And usually when that happens, I toss the song. Thank God I didn't toss it. I put it in my mother's piano bench. And a year later, when she dumped me and broke my heart, crushed me, then I knew how the song ended and how that last verse, what do you think I would give at this moment? If you'd stay, I'd subtract 20 years from my life. I'd fall down on my knees, kiss the ground that you walk on, if I could just hold you again, And I didn't even realize how powerful that last verse was until a million people have said to me over the years, oh my God, that's the greatest last verse in the history of music, all that blah, blah, blah. And, but again, being kind of analytical type of person, I analyze why that last verse is so strong. And I realized this. Here he is saying, me, the singer, the writer, is saying I would do something so big as give up 20 years of my life. That's huge. I mean, what's huger than that, if that's even a word? If for something so small as if I could just hold you again. So the drama comes from the hugeness of what he would give in return for the tiny little thing that he would settle for, and that's a big deal, and I didn't, when I wrote the song, I didn't even think it was a hit. It did, because it had no title. Nobody ever remembers the title. Hey,
what about the song? You wrote a song.
If I could just hold you again,
You wrote a song for that almost got done by Cyndi Lauper.
Wait, say that again?
Cyndi Lauper.
Yeah, what about her?
You did a song that Cyndi Lauper almost covered. You wrote a song.
Oh,
Cyndi Lauper.
Okay. Yeah. That's a long story, but I'll tell it because we got nothing but time.
Yes, we want
Back
to
when I
know.
was in the 60s, when I was a staff songwriter. Now, a staff songwriter is somebody that they started out paying me $75 a week and give me a little cubby hole with a little tiny piano in it. And the boss would come in and say, hey, Billy, the Shirelles are recording next week. Write something for them. Or, hey, man, Tony Bennett's recording next week. See if you can come up with something for him. So there's this great soul singer named Chuck Jackson. You probably never heard of him, but he sang Any Day Now and Burt Bacharach songs. And they said Chuck was coming up for a recording date. So I was a fan of his, but I said, Chuck's been a little tired sounding lately. His songs, I said, I got to write something that'll kick his ass and make him want to sing. And I said, well, he's got that preacher kind of voice, like those black preachers. So I wrote this song called Don't Look Back. And I made a demo of it, and he didn't record it. So my boss at the publishing company, he pitched the song elsewhere. And so this group, this white group from New England, recorded the song. And it was not the way I intended the song, but it was great what they did with it, And I said, wow, this could be a hit. And unfortunately, it was not a hit. And so that was the end of that, I thought. So a few years later, I'm down in Greenwich Village at a record store because I'm a big record collector. And this skinny guy, long stringy hair, he says, my name's Lenny Kaye. And you probably know Lenny. He's Patti Smith's guitarist. He said, I compiled this album. I'm not seeing you, so I hope you're still there. Are you? Just let me know you're still.
Yes, we're still here.
Okay, good. I just got nervous. Anyway, so Lenny said, I compiled this album called Nuggets, and I used your song Don't Look Back by the Remains on it. I said, oh, that's cool. So he gave me a copy. I took it home and, the end. So now, 20 years later, after I wrote the song, I get a call, and at this moment was out, and I get this call from Cyndi Lauper's husband. He says, Cyndi just recorded a track on your song, Don't Look Back. She's thinking of doing a duet with Joan Jett. I said, wow, that'll be really cool. They do the hell out of that song. Well, it never came out. So around the same time, I get a demo CD in the mail of Robert Plant's forthcoming album. And there's 4 songs on the little CD, and one of them is Don't Look Back. I said, oh my God, Robert Plant, he's going to sell a lot of records. It didn't make it to the album, you know? So that's the end of that, I thought. So now cut to another 20 years. Now the song is 40 years old. And Rhino Records puts out an expanded version of Lenny Kaye's Nuggets compilation. And Don't Look Back is on there. It sells a shitload of records. And so 40 years after I wrote the song, he starts making money. Then a year later, Rhino puts out a Robert Plant box set, and it sells a ton of records. So now this little song that couldn't, did.
This is what inspires me, Billy. This is how you inspire me, because 40 years later, your songs are becoming hits. Like, this is what inspires me. It's like, what you put out there today may not be a hit today, but wait 20 to 30, 40 years, you know? This is inspiration.
That's the beauty of songs, you know, because, you know, recording artists die. You know, a song never dies. And so there's always a chance, you know, a song gets used in a movie, you could make 50 grand in a major movie.
Yeah, I wanted you to talk about that, the money angle for a lot of up and coming artists, the importance of getting on TV shows or movies.
Oh, it's very important. You know, I have a new record out with my friend Larry Chance from the Earls. We did a reimagining of the old Benny King hit "Stand By Me."
It's so good, by the way. You can watch it on YouTube, everybody. Yeah. It's very, very good.
Thank you. Yeah. Well, we're real proud of it, you know. And anyway, I played it for Mike Stoller of Lieber and Stoller fame, who's one of the writers of the song. And he said, you know, this is a great record. He said, this record's as good as the one we made with Benny years ago. He said, but you know, nobody buys records anymore. Nobody buys CDs anymore. He said, the only way you're going to make any money is if you get that song in a commercial or a TV show or a movie. He said, I got a girl at my publishing office that her one job is to try to get our songs in movies and TV shows and TV commercials. He said, I'm going to have her do that. He said, it's a long shot. It might never happen. He said, but if it happens, it'll be a good payday for you. He said, so the music business has changed so much. You know, when I started out, you wanted to get a song recorded by not only a great artist that might have a hit record, but you wanted to get a lot of cover versions, because the more people recorded your song, the more bread you make, you know. And today people don't write songs that'll be covered by multiple artists for the most part. You know, people, because fans, they want to buy the original record. They don't really care if Tony Bennett sings the song. You know?
Right. That's a big difference. What do you think about the resurgence of vinyl? Vinyl's making a big comeback.
Yeah, I mean, anything that people buy is cool, you know, and vinyl has a warmer sound than I think than CDs do, and certainly more than streaming does.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
I think Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, and speaking of streaming, that was my next question. What do you feel, having such a long career, what do you feel about the digital experience, Spotify, Apple, all of that?
Well, it takes a long time to make any money off of the streaming. You know, you got to sell hundreds of thousands of streams to make any significant money. But that's the thing about music, whether it's songs or publishing or recording. I mean, it's a business of nickels and dimes, but those nickels and dimes eventually add up if you have something that people want to buy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I also wanted to ask you about how live audiences have changed over the decades. Is there a different feel when you're performing now as opposed to when you were performing decades ago? What about the live fans?
I find that for what I do, the skills that I learned, stagecraft and how to perform and how to. I come from the old school. Like when you're playing the Apollo, there was all these older black guys that'd been doing the business 20 years longer than you. And they say, hey kid, this is how you make an entrance. This is how you make an exit. This is how you stand. You know who Donna McKechnie is?
Yes, definitely.
The great star of Chorus Line. Well, she was married to my manager back in the 60s. And she was the lead dancer on a TV show called Hullabaloo. And she's the one that taught me how to stand on stage. She said, stand with your legs a little bit apart. She says, because women like that.
It's a power move. It's very powerful.
I guess so. But anyway, that and Donna is one of the great dancers of our generation. I mean, she was just a great. I remember my mother always took me to see Broadway shows because my dad didn't like to go out with her at all. He'd like to stay home and watch ball games. So I was my mother's date for all these shows. So she took me to see Chorus Line, and we're in kind of a back row on a balcony, I think. And I looked and I said, boy, that looks like Donna. And sure enough, that was her. She played Cassie, and she was fabulous, man. And of course, that's the role that made her a star.
Right. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Wow. That's awesome. For her fans watching this are going to love that. Yeah. Yes, Sandy?
Is that my intro? What is?
I lost you, babe.
Billy, I was going to say, I was watching the documentary, and I was like amazed, because you said that your mom used to perform live 11 times a day, and then you and Billy, you and the Beaters used to go live 5 times a day. That blows my mind. How
well,
much?
Not quite. No? Judy Clay and I performed 5 shows a day at the Apollo in a 7-day week. My mom, in later years, after she was no longer on television, when she got to be, when in those days when a woman got to be 40, God forbid that they should be on television. They let them go. So what is she going to do? So for about 10 years, she didn't know what to do with herself. She worked in the garden and stuff. Anyway, when she turned around 50-ish, she learned how to play enough piano to accompany herself. And she started getting gigs in local, high-class restaurants. And so she worked 5 nights a week. That's what you're talking about, I think. And when I had my little band during that period, that would be the 70s. I worked 6 nights a week, with the band. Yeah. But you do that, and you after a while, if you're paying attention to what you do, and if you concentrate on being a better performer rather than just playing dopey dance music, I mean, there's nothing. That's a dead end job, But if my goal was to be the best performer I could be. And one of the things the old timers told me says, well, you have to connect with an audience. You have to talk to them between songs. If they get to know you, they'll like you. And if they like you, they'll come see you again. And, show business is all about how many asses do you put in the seats. And
Well, and
so
also you were
over
in
the
a
years,
live
I learned a
you
few
played in a
things.
live venue where the mafia was sitting there in the audience and gunshots were going off and bah, 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 and you and the band escaped through the back door. It's all in your documentary.
That was New Year's Eve. I think
Oh
it
my
was
gosh.
1965. It was a Joey D, my friend. If you ever heard of Joey D and the Starlighters, Peppermint Twist. Well, Joey was fronting a club for those guys, and on this New Year's Eve, we were the opening band because we were the low guy on the totem pole, So this one guy bumps into this other guy's pregnant wife and forgot to say, "I'm sorry." And the fists began to fly, and then the chairs began to fly, and then
Yeah,
the
you don't
tables,
do
and
that.
then the
You don't
guns
do
came
that
out.
in New York. You never bump into a pregnant lady in New York and don't say sorry. Like that's a death sentence.
Right, yeah. I think the guy was named Jimmy Gums. Jimmy Gums.
Of course it was. Of course that was his name.
Yeah, Joey D and I'm still friends with him. He lives in Florida now. He's still working, man, doing the Peppermint Twist all over the place, and we're still good friends. We talk on the phone all the time.
Wow. I just saw Frank Sinatra talking about how he got stage fright even late into his career. Did you ever battle stage fright?
Again, I think I was too stupid. I tell you, the first time I realized why I wasn't afraid, or that I wasn't afraid, I was in acting class. My acting teacher was a fellow named David Proval, who you probably remember from The Sopranos. And he was married to Tony Soprano's sister, the crazy sister. And he was in Mean Streets. He played the bartender. A great acting teacher. Anyway, one night he told the class that the first time he ever got on a stage, he said it was the first time in his life he ever felt like he had permission to be himself. And that really struck home, because that's exactly how I always felt, that
right.
I could be me up on that stage, because I'm kind of, if you see me at a party, man, I'm not the guy that's going, "Hi, I'm Billy," I'm shy, in real life. I can't hit on a woman in the grocery store, anything like that. I never could. So, but on stage, I can be confident.
Again, don't you feel so many celebrities have mentioned that, so many performer celebrities, I should say, over and over again, that they were the shy ones in school, that they're the shy ones, but something is released authentically inside of them as soon as they're on stage. I think that's the natural performer. That's when you know you have a natural performer, somebody who feels more confident on stage. Whereas people who are not innate performers, that's the most terrifying. I mean, that's the number one phobia in the world, is public speaking, is having to do anything in front of an audience. So I think you just unlocked, for me anyways, what a natural performer would be. That's your native environment, and that's your home. You step off that stage, and that's where the jitters come in. So thank you for explaining that. Sandy, you got to unmute him.
Safe to be him.
Can you say that one more time, just because you were muted? So can you say it one more time?
Yeah, David Proval said that the first time he stepped on a stage, it was the first time he felt safe to be him.
Wow.
A lot of stupid people today say, "Oh, I need my safe place." Well, that was the original safe place for some of us.
Yeah, if you're a musician or an artist or a performer, that's where you live. That's where you feel the most yourself. So
yeah.
How old were you when you figured out that was your native environment?
I don't think I was conscious of it, but I did feel safe. I felt I never had fear. and some great performers. I mean, Frank Sinatra, who's better? I remember my mom
Right.
took me to see Judy Garland one time. And from where we were sitting on a diagonal, we could see into the wings where she was waiting to go on. And they were playing her overture. And I saw her lift up this bottle that could only have been either vodka or gin, and gulping it down right before she came on stage. And I knew this, years later, I knew this actress who lived next door to me, that she had traveled with Judy Garland. And she said, yeah, I mean, she was a psychotic. But she said, by the same token, she said, all those twitches that she did, in the middle of her songs, she said she did those twitches at the same word in the song every night. So in other words, it was calculated, man.
Wow. Okay, so it's calculated insanity. So she's psychotic, but it's contained. That's pretty cool.
She knew that it worked.
This is not like a dating app. We're not trying to bring people to a new dating app, right? With this, because this is like the no for me.
Yeah.
I'm thinking the opposite. I'm like ixnay on the xnay with the o-nay, the ote.
Okay. We have about 8 minutes left, and I really wanted to talk to you about being an author. Sandy mentioned from Harlem to Hollywood, which had been turned into a documentary. Of course, that was the title of the memoir as well. Yeah. But what about you being a fiction author? Can you talk about how you made that leap?
Well, after I wrote Harlem to Hollywood, I was asked to write a publisher contacted me. They were doing a series of books about small independent record companies some of the past and some of the future. And I used to work for this company called Specialty Records that discovered Little Richard, Sam Cooke, a lot of great people. So I wrote a book about that company called Rip It Up, the Specialty Record Story. And if anybody's interested in old rhythm and blues and rock and roll, it's a must-have book. I will say, and then at one point I said, man, I wonder if I could write fiction, maybe I could. And so one morning I woke up, and this whole scene, I was laying in my bed, and this whole scene formulated. It was like the main character is a singer, not a singer, a guitar player. 65 years old, but he still needed to work to make money because he never made that much money. So he's playing for Bonnie Raitt and in Texas. And the night before, he meets this 19-year-old rich girl from Connecticut, and they're together, and he's in the shower and he hears her scream. So he comes running out, with the water dripping down and the towel wrapped around him, and she's sitting there crying, and the newscaster tells her that the city of Los Angeles has just been blown up with an atomic bomb, and everybody's dead in Los Angeles. And of course, that's where his family, his divorced wife and children live. And he's, my God, my family's dead. My home is dead. What the hell? And then the phone rings, and it's his Uncle Nicky, who's the head of the New Orleans Mafia. And he says, get down here, man. Get down here. We got work to do now. And that's that opening scene. I said, so let me write that. Let me write that scene, see what happens. Well, little by little, it was as if, never having written fiction before, it was as if these characters, one by one, knocked on my door and said, hey, use me. Let me be in your book.
Wow. It was like the muse, right? The muse.
Yeah, it was like they came to me like that, And
wow.
One after another, they came and they found their place and I put it all together, and next thing you know, I got a book. But fiction is much harder to sell than nonfiction.
Yeah, I thought you were going to tell me that you had been writing your whole life. That was wow.
Songs, yes, because what my mentor Chip Taylor told me about songwriting was that he said a song should be like a short story with a beginning, a middle, and an end. People don't write songs like that. You don't even know, they don't have stories in songs anymore, for the most part.
Right. Yeah. Story songs are they're coming back in country. They're there in country.
Always. Yeah.
But not, you're right. They're kind of out of vogue. But you're right. So you have been a storyteller your whole life. It was just a different venue.
Exactly. Yeah.
Oh, Sandy, are you going to say something?
I keep hearing an echo.
You have to mute Billy when he's not talking.
Okay. I was gonna say, Billy, you grew up, like, you lived everywhere as a kid. You were on the Johnny Carson show. I want to hear about that. I think me and Renee need to hear about that.
9 times? Unmute him. Yeah.
My agent's father managed Doc Severinsen, the band leader on Carson. And so he was part of the family, the Tonight Show family. And so it was easy. He said, you ought to check out Billy, So we went on there and Carson, he liked me, man. I think what he liked about me was that I had a popular record, so it would draw in younger people, but it wasn't the kind of music that older people, the Mr. and Mrs. Average laying in bed at night watching the Tonight Show would be offended by. So, I ended up doing the show 9 times. And the guys in the crew and a friend of mine who wrote Johnny's monologues, they all told me, they said, I was Johnny Carson's second favorite singer.
Wow.
After Tony Bennett. Yeah, it was his favorite.
After Tony Bennett.
Yeah, so I felt great about that, as you can imagine.
Yeah, for the younger audiences, I'll say that was the hardest show to get on and the biggest career booster you could get on.
Yeah, you bet. We ended up doing a American Bandstand a couple of times too, which was cool for me because as a 13-year-old, I watched religiously. And Dick Clark comes, he puts the microphone in your face, and so I said, "Oh, Dick, man, you told me Franny Giordano was going to be on the show." Well, she was the girl I had a crush on from American Bandstand when I was 13. And he started laughing, man. It cracked him up, and he said, and the next day he had somebody from his office send me an 8x10 of himself with Franny Giordano from 1958.
Oh, wow.
Really cool.
That is very, very cool. I love that. Wow. Billy, you have so many stories. I wish I could just be here listening to them nonstop. The people in the audience love this, of course, but we've been here an hour and, so we're going to have to maybe do one more question. I don't know if Sandy, I know, has at least one more question she wanted to ask you. Sandy, do you want to ask the final question? She had a very good question about interviewers. Sandy wanted to ask you if you noted a difference between.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Do you want to ask that?
Yeah, I wanted to know, Billy, you're famous and you've done interviews and you've done live shows in front of thousands of audience members. My question to you is, how do you prepare for a show, and how do you prepare for a show, and like how do you do that? I guess that's my question.
At this point, it's kind of second nature, it's just that's my job. I go there, and if I can go back to my acting class stuff, and do the exercises, and what that does. What they used to call the repeat exercise, what that you do with opposite.
Yep.
You probably know that, yeah. So what that does is it brings all the emotions up so that it's like a painter has a palette, and so you have all your different colors there that are there and available for you as you need them. If I'm going to sing a funny song, if I'm going to sing a sad song, if I'm going to, and that came from even before I was ever took acting classes. Even when I was back in New York, I stumbled upon this notion. Suppose I have to do a comical song tonight here, but what if my best friend died this afternoon, or what if somebody ran me off the road? Do I have an obligation to be funny? Of course I do, because the words tell me I have to be funny. However, do I also have an obligation to give something to the tragedy that happened to me this afternoon? And is there a way that I can bring those together so that the crashing together of those two different, or sometimes five different emotions, make something much larger than just concentrating on one or the other? I don't know if that makes any sense to anybody, but I went about on my own trying to figure out how to do that. And I said, because I wanted to be the best entertainer in the world, and I'm still working on that. But some things you have to figure out by yourself, but also if you're lucky, like I was, you have the old timers to tell you. John Voight is the one that took me to David's class. John Voight was the brother of Chip Taylor, the songwriter.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And so I knew John before he was famous, and so he came to see me one night with David Proval. And he said, "Billy, you should be an actor." I said, "John, I'm not good looking enough to be an actor. I don't want to be. That's for sissies, So he could be very convincing. So he talked me into going to this class, to David's class. And the first, I don't know, 3 or 4 times I went there, I just watched. I said, what do? I got no song to sing. I got no microphone. And finally, I got the nerve to get up there. And little by little, it took me a good deal of time to finally start to get what he was trying to teach. And after a while, I became okay at it, and people asked me to be in plays, and then TV show here and there, and then a movie or two here and there, and then I got into it. So that's how that came about.
Wow.
Does it all come down to the Guns N' Roses song, Just a Little Patience? Because, you've had to wait like 30, 40 years for your songs to get recognized as like a hit. Like Guns N' Roses wrote that song, right?
I lost her again, Renee.
Oh, he said that it come down to a little patience, having patience.
A little patience.
Well, persistence is a better way to describe it.
Persistence.
More than patience. Because you don't want to be patient, because that'll make you put you in a dead space. Whereas persistence means you keep moving, you keep trying. If that doesn't work, you try something else. But a good piece of advice I got was, opportunity will knock. You just got to answer the door.
I love that.
And recognize it as opportunity.
I love that.
It's like when At This Moment got on Family Ties that way. I mean, my record company was out of business. I was getting these little acting gigs. I was working with the band, making, shit money. One day the phone rings. Guy says, I produced this show called Family Ties. We heard you do a song in the club the other night, and we'd like to maybe use it in the show. So I took advantage of that, And then when we got some mail from the audience, the TV audience, I said, maybe a record company will let me put the song out again. Maybe there's an audience for this song after all. And I got turned down by, a bunch of record companies. And then if I talked to my friend Richard Foose that owned Rhino Records. He just puts out oldies. He didn't put out contemporary songs. And so he put it out.
I can't believe that.
Maybe it's a favor. He didn't think he was going to make any money.
Industry.
What?
Why am I getting that echo? You've dealt with the best in the industry. Like it blows my mind. The people that you've been in with.
When he's not talking, you have to mute him. Otherwise, we get the feedback. So yeah. You can talk now, Sandy. You can talk.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, Billy, it blows my mind. Your music career is outstanding, phenomenal. Like, we need to get you on TikTok. And because, like, now the world is changing and, like, you're on, everything is about different platforms, like all these new platforms. And, like, I'm older, too. And I'm like, what the heck? I'm like, no, I don't want to sign up for another platform. But like Billy Vera, like everyone needs to know who you are. And I'm going to make it my lifelong mission to let everyone know who you are because I love you so much. And I love that you come on my show. And I love that you even were willing to get to know me, who is like a nobody. And thank you to Renee and Rory. But I'll just say that and I'll just leave it out. And like, please come back. Please come back on my show. I want to talk to you more. I have a lot of more questions as we navigate through this new social media going forward thing. You know what I mean?
I'll come back whenever you want me. I'll come back whenever you want me.
I love that.
I love it. Thank you, Billy.
Thank you so much for having me. You're great. You're a great couple of girls. You're great fun.
Oh, thank you. That means so much to us. You have no idea. We were so nervous when you come on. We always want to give you the best treatment. We love you.
Love you more.
Yeah, and Renee, one more thing is next time Billy's on the show, we're gonna ask him because he's been interviewed by like Johnny Carson, like the best of the best. So the next time he comes on the show on Cosmos, somebody has to ask him, how is it being interviewed by a woman versus a man? Because like I need to know.
With a woman, there's always there's always the sexual energy, even though we don't act on it, even though we don't, get ugly with it. But with a man, there's not that, Now, Johnny Carson was the greatest. He was the greatest interviewer. You know why? Because, he was not just a little bit greater. He was heads and shoulders greater than any other nighttime host because he made you the star. And he knew that. He said, I'm on this show 5 nights a week. People are going to get tired of listening to me. He said, I bring my guest out. I make them the center of attention. Where so many of these other guys that are on these nighttime or daytime shows, some of them are out and out suck. I don't know how they have the job, but they're too interested in putting themselves forward rather than their guests. I did an interview this week with a guy that was so awful. I mean, it was just, I had to do it because, you know, it promotes a gig I'm going to do, you know, but I had to be there, and you got to interview yourself, you know, because he asked stupid questions. The guy was a moron. I mean, absolute moron. And,
I'm so sorry you had to deal with that.
it's part of the job. You know, I've become an expert at working around people like that.
Right.
You see?
Have you ever interviewed somebody? Have you ever?
Oh yeah, I'm good at that. I do a radio show now, but it's a modern way where you record ahead of time. But in the 80s, for 6 years I had a radio show, and a lot of my heroes were still alive back then. My rhythm and blues heroes and rock and roll heroes, and I managed to get a lot of great guests.
Oh, that's great. Can we listen to the archives?
I don't know where they would be. There was I had loaned them the shows to this guy who I think he died, but he was rerunning my shows. But I had people like Jerry Lieber on there. I had Herb Abramson, one of the founders of Atlantic Records. I had Lowell Fulson, the great blues man. I had wonderful people on there, and they open up to me because they know that I've done what they did. So they know that I understand.
You have street cred.
Yeah, you know, sure, you know, because if I'm a musician, you know, so I can speak to them in musician terms, whereas a civilian, as I call them, might not be able to. So yeah, I'm a very good interviewer.
And you also know what not to do as an interviewer. You know how to not mess it up.
Stay out of the way, you know, but get those little questions in that set them off, that wind them up, you know, get them going.
Yep.
And once they're comfortable with you, man, they'll just go to town, man, and it's great.
Billy, do you know that I have a song, I have a children's song called Purple Shampoo. Have you heard it? All right, no. I'm gonna send it to you. I need your input. I don't know why it's echoing, but I need your input.
You have to mute Billy.
Well, you know, I generally don't like to give my opinions on people's stuff, and here's why. They always say, "I want you to be honest," and they don't. You know, and what if I don't like it? You know, then they hate me. You know, and
you don't want to be the bearer of bad news.
Yeah, because you know, 90% of what you're going to hear is, you know, average.
Well, it has to be, right? Because that's the curve.
That's why they call it average.
That's why they call it average. Yeah. It is a very good song. I'll go on the record. I'll you know, it's a very fun song. It's a kid's song. It's very fun.
Cool.
But
well, you know what? Email me the YouTube.
I could play it right now if you want. I've already got it done. I mean, like, it's done. Tonight I just got it on Spotify or whatever you call it. I don't know. I'm new to technology, but I just got it up there. And yeah, and I have it's a collab. It's like a collab. So
Sandy, if we're gonna do that, we gotta go fast because I actually had a meeting that started at 8:30, so I do have to go, unfortunately.
I don't hear you, Renee.
Yeah, I was just telling Sandy that I actually have to go. So if you want to play it, we have to go fast.
Yeah, I should go. I'm getting hungry.
Okay, I'll play it really quick. I'll close it out. I'll close it out, Renee. I'll close it out with
okay, close it out. Okay, thank you, Billy.
Billy Vera, tell us what you think. Tell us what you think. It's a collab.
Love you, Billy.
Love you back.
Love you,
Thanks
everybody.
for having
me. Watching, everybody.
Bye, ladies.
Bye.
Hold on. purple bubble soap. My mommy has a purple bubble soap, a purple bubble soap in the shower. She washes her hair every day. She helps me wash the germs away. My mommy has a purple shampoo, a purple shampoo, a purple shampoo. My mommy has a purple shampoo, a purple shampoo in the shower. She washes her hair every day. She helps me wash the dirt away. My mommy has a purple bubble soap, a purple bubble soap, a purple bubble soap. My mommy has a purple bubble soap, a purple bubble soap in the shower. She washes her hair every day. She helps me wash the germs away. My mommy has a purple shampoo, a purple shampoo, a purple shampoo.